Hello, my lovelies. I hope you're all well. Well, the Labour Party have never been shy about using gutter politics, but they've really messed up this time. So, the Labour Party recently put out this advertisement for themselves. And as you can see, it says, "Do you think adults convicted of assaulting children should go to prison? Rishi Sunak doesn't." That implication, of course, that he is in support of people that commit these acts on children. And I happen to know that Rishi Sunak is a father of 2 daughters, so it's a particularly heinous accusation to be throwing at somebody, with nothing to back it up. So the way Labour are defending this advertisement is they are basically claiming that for the past 13 years that we have had a Conservative government, many, I think over 4,000 cases that have gone to court pertaining to either making and distributing CP or taking part in the acts themselves upon children. The people haven't gone to prison for it or have received very minor sentences. The Labour Party are holding Rishi Sunak responsible for the entire 13-year record of the Conservatives being in power, which is absolutely ridiculous because Rishi Sunak wasn't even a member of Parliament back then. But it's gutter politics at its best. It's slinging mud and seeing if it sticks. Sir Keir Starmer, who is the head of the Labour Party, said on Wednesday he makes no apologies for highlighting the failures of this government. The problem is, buddy, what you're highlighting isn't the failure of the government, it's the failure of the judges to enforce the law. And we don't know what the political leanings of these judges are, but the fact that they are not pursuing the full extent of the law against these criminals, it lands on the judges' side, I'm afraid. And so they're in a bit of hot water. The media, who are usually pretty pro-Labour, have come out to condemn them. Even The Guardian have been running stories on this. So that sort of tells you everything you need to know. And when The Observer ran a poll on its readers to see their reaction to the advertisement, it's actually not particularly gone in Labour's favour either. It has, so the Labour advert about Sunak made 17% of those polled feel less favourable about the Conservatives, but it also made 12% feel less favourable to Labour. And I think it's that sort of gutter politics side of it. People don't like that. And the fact that the advertisement is a blatant lie as well doesn't help. Now, Labour are still ahead in the polls, unfortunately. Apparently the only 2 points that people are less favourable towards Labour are defence and the fight against terrorism. So Conservatives are still ahead on those. But yes, it's all a bit disgusting, really. Second story regarding the Labour Party is Diane Abbott. Now, she had a letter published in which she basically said that Jewish people don't face racism. She has now had the whip suspended, which effectively means she is now an independent member of Parliament rather than a Labour MP, although I'm sure she'll get reinstated. She always does. She's been consistently voted in by her constituents for many years. They're not about to change their tune anytime soon, and they'd probably vote her in. Well, I don't know actually. Would they vote her in as an independent, or would they vote for the next Labour person? Because people don't really tend to vote for the person rather than they vote for the party. So the letter she published basically claimed that Jewish people don't suffer racism, they suffer prejudice similar to that of redheads. Oi. I mean, talk about putting your foot in it. Yes, the Hackney North MP says she was responding to writer, I can't pronounce your name, sorry, claims that Irish, Jewish and traveller people all suffer from racism, which is very true. Irish people have always suffered from racism, mostly from the English, Jewish people, I don't even need to tell you the history there, do I? And Romani gypsy travellers, they are a race, and yes, they do get racism. The problem is that you also have the Irish travellers, which sort of they all get lumped in together. So you've got what we call pikeys over here, which are the Irish travellers. And they again do not have the best reputation and undoubtedly suffer from prejudice and discrimination. So she says, they undoubtedly experience prejudice. This is similar to racism, and the two words are often used as if they are interchangeable. It is true that many types of white people with points of difference, such as redheads, can experience this prejudice, but they are not all their lives subject to racism. The former Shadow Home Secretary, because don't forget, this was Jeremy Corbyn's right-hand lady, right? She added, in pre-civil rights America, Irish people, Jewish people and travellers were not required to sit at the back of the bus. I don't know why she's invoking imagery from America, and then she goes on to talk about South Africa, when we are in the United Kingdom and never had these, apartheid, segregation, Jim Crow type laws in place. So she's trying to stir up this sort of, white guilt and BLM type rhetoric, even though it doesn't really apply to our country, but I digress. They were not required to sit at the back of the bus, like black people were, obviously, in Jim Crow. In apartheid South Africa, these groups were allowed to vote. Yeah. And at the height of slavery, there were no white-seeming people manacled on the slave ships. So again, she's talking about the transatlantic slave trade. Obviously, white people have been slaves. There are still slaves around today, many of whom are white. But they only ever want to talk about the transatlantic slave trade that, took people from Africa to the colonies. She's just, she's not the sharpest tool in the shed anyway. She's had many gaffes over the years. Why she keeps getting elected into Parliament is beyond me, but you'll have to speak to the residents of Hackney to find that out. Following criticism from Conservative and Labour MPs, see, this is the big thing. And you know why? It's because the Labour Party were accused of anti-Semitism for a very, very long time. And, I mean, there's still those that think that it is quite deeply rooted in the party itself, with the Corbynites and such, of which Diane Abbott is one. And she's now made this inference that Jewish people do not suffer racism, which kind of goes along those lines, doesn't it? The Labour Party completely condemns these comments, which are deeply offensive and wrong. The Chief Whip has suspended the whip from Diane Abbott pending an investigation. So this means that she is effectively still an MP, but not of the Labour Party. The decision forces Ms Abbott to sit as an independent MP in the Commons. Shortly after the letter was published, Miss Abbott issued a statement in which she wished to wholly and unreservedly withdraw my remarks and disassociate myself from them. That errors arose in an initial draft being sent, but there's no excuse, and I wish to apologise for any anguish caused. Honestly. She continued, racism takes many forms, and it is completely undeniable that Jewish people have suffered its monstrous effects, as have Irish people, travellers and many others. Once again, I would like to apologise publicly for the remarks and any distress caused as a result of them. So basically, she's had her hands slapped and she's had some actual history given to her to look at. And so now she's backtracking and saying that she wants to remove herself completely from her comments. I'm afraid it's a bit late for that. And in this age of the internet, it's there forever. Everyone's going to see it forever. What she said is completely ridiculous. We know that lots of people have suffered from racism. Racism is not just a black issue. It goes across all races, obviously, because it's about prejudice and discrimination. I know they're trying to change the meaning of the word racism to say that it has something to do with power. So but you live in a country where there are many black members of parliament. We have an Indian Prime Minister. We have an Indian Mayor of London. It's not exactly undiverse. But yeah, she's just an idiot, basically. But it just goes to show you that the Labour Party are deeply, deeply out of touch. Editing Michelle just jumping in here to say, don't think for a minute that this video is me defending the Conservative Party. I hold conservative values and political views, as you're probably aware if you've seen any of my previous videos. The current Conservative Party, I don't believe, are particularly conservative anyway. So I'm not the biggest fan of the Conservative Party. So this is not me defending them. This is just me saying how ridiculous Labour are. And they have really, really dropped the ball with that disgusting advertisement, basically accusing Rishi Sunak of siding with those types that, you know, would do bad things to children. And the fact that Keir Starmer is standing by that advertisement and has not issued an apology for it just goes to show the type of person that he is. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts, and I'll see you very soon.